Welcome to the One City podcast, where the Big C Church comes together to talk faith, culture, and what's happening in our world. We believe unity starts with honest conversations and a shared mission. Let's build one city together. So today I'm joined with lead pastor of the House of the Lord, Pastor Daren Brake. Let's give him a hand clap.
Hey now,
Thanks for being in the studio, Daren. Pastor Daren, I call him Daren. See, that's when you're friends with somebody, you kind of gotta.
It's all right. It's all right.
Hey, we let that slide.
And we're also joined today as he's having a quick little drink to wet his whistle before he drops the nuggets on us. Our executive director, head football coach of the Garfield Rams, loving husband and father. The longest intro.
Come on, pastor too.
Pastor
Church too.
of the church.
Yeah.
Kent Boyd, everybody.
Come on now. What up? What up? What up?
We were kind of talking about, even before we got into what we were going to talk about with One City today, but you were saying something about Stacy, your wife.
Oh yeah. Oh no, good setup. So we just
You were saying she was what God gave you her. She was what you.
yeah, she necessarily wasn't. Yeah, God gave me what I needed.
Yeah, good word.
And I developed a wantingness for her as a result, right?
Yeah, and I can feel that being recently married. You know, we celebrated 1 year.
All right, come on now.
Yeah.
Give him a hand clap. Give him
Come
a hand
on,
clap.
come on.
Weirdest 1 year of my life, but greatest 1 year. Because even before her, I never have cohabitated.
Yeah.
I've never lived with anyone besides my brother and my family.
Mm-hmm.
So living with someone that is of the opposite sex, someone you didn't grow up with, you don't know any of their manners, it's been an eventful year.
Absolutely, I bet.
Yeah, but I wouldn't.
Full of learnings.
Full of learnings. But that leads me. I'm about to throw you guys a curveball to kind of start with because you're both pastors.
All right.
Do you believe that you need to be married or have kids to be? I don't want to say an effective pastor, but to be your ultimate form as a pastor. Do you believe being married helps with that? Because the Bible talks about Adam, right? In the beginning, he had to tend to the garden before he ever got Eve. Mm-hmm. He had to manage and do all of the things before he ever had a woman. But then once she came, it did, the Bible says it's not good for a man to be alone. So what are your thoughts on single pastors?
All right, I'll jump out here first.
jump off the porch.
I was looking at the expression on Kim's face.
Kim is like, well,
No, I think it depends on the call.
Yeah.
It depends on what is required of the call for the individual. Scripture tells us that Peter was married, but Paul wasn't.
Yeah.
Both effective in ministry, both critical in the start and the birth and the growth of the church. One married and one wasn't. So I think it's the call that necessitates that.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Because when I thought about the question, I know I wouldn't want to answer that initially. Right? Because you don't want to offend people in your answer, but at the same time, it's a thought. It's a real thought, Because if you see a pastor that is married or unmarried, it will change how you view them.
Yep.
Or if they have kids or don't have kids. Especially if because when you're a pastor, you're in leadership, you're guiding people. But if you're trying to guide someone who has children and you don't have children as a pastor, they may look at you like, you don't even know what I'm going through. Yep. You can't empathize with me, So that was a good answer.
Thank you.
That's why you are a lead pastor.
That's right. Come on.
That's why you're a lead pastor. But something I want to talk about with you guys, and Kemp, we kind of got your origin story on episode 1, our pilot episode. But today, Pastor Daren, I kind of want you to tell us like a little bit of where you came from. You don't have to tell us everything yet, but a little bit of where you came from and how you ended up being senior pastor at the House of the Lord. And you had pretty big shoes to fill with Bishop Joey Johnson. So just tell us your experience, like where you came from and where you are now.
Okay.
And how everything's going.
Born and raised Akron, Ohio. The youngest son of Daryl and Yvonne Brake. They're also here in Akron, Ohio. Actually, my parents won an award.
Yep.
A couple years ago at the banquet for Love Akron. So definitely proud of them. But I was at a time in my life where I was trying to figure out. I knew I had this call.
Yeah.
But I wasn't sure how to live it out. And actually, this kind of takes us back to Love Akron again because I met Pastor Butts Senior. He's since passed away, but I met him at a prayer luncheon for Love Akron, and he started a conversation with me, and we were talking about my call. And he asked me certain questions and stuff that challenged me. So as I was looking to figure out how to live this out, I reached out to Pastor Butts. We talked. Long story short, end up joining the house of the Lord a few months later with my now wife. We were engaged at the time, and literally walked down front. You know, people don't do that now.
No,
People
no more altar calls.
People just claim churches, but we actually walked down front.
Yeah, they presented y'all.
Joined the church. And
the right hand of fellowship.
Exactly.
For those who don't know, the right hand of fellowship.
Right hand of fellowship.
It is something that is required in.
Right.
Before you can serve, you gotta get that right hand.
So we literally went from joining the church and being mentored by Pastor Butts Sr., then being mentored by Bishop Johnson, who he knew my dad from way back when, because my dad used to go to the church many years ago when he met my mom, and ended up developing my own relationship with him, and went from joining the church to then being the pastor of the church about 15, 16 years later.
That's a long time. Did you start off in different ministry capacities?
Yeah,
what was your first service at the church once you got that right hand of fellowship?
So the first, I was a minister, and in that I volunteered in a lot of different ways. We used to have this youth service called House Party, and
you might need to bring that back. That's a great name.
Yeah.
Called House Party, and they needed a preacher and didn't have one, and we were about a week away. And at the time, a guy named Pastor Freisen was on staff, and he approached me and asked me if I would preach at House Party, and that really kind of started this kind of trajectory where I ended up preaching at House Party, being mentored by Bishop Johnson. A few years later, during that whole time, I'm preaching at the Haven of Rest because I was always taught pulpits aren't always open. So if you have this gift, you got to find the place to develop your gift. Was preaching, doing service at the Haven of Rest for like 5 years. And Bishop he sent me an email just out the blue, like, hey, I'm going to be on vacation. You want to try your hand at a Wednesday? I said, sure. Preached that Wednesday. Then that next thing you know, I'm in the rotation of when he's out of town, and just responsibilities kept increasing till.
What was it like getting that first call on the Wednesday? Did you feel a pressure? Or at that point you had been ministering so long in other capacities that you felt prepared?
No, I felt a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I
felt a lot of pressure. But Pastor Butts actually he came and talked to me right before service and was telling me that that this is the moment. This moment was made for you, and to have godly confidence in that. And that's really this is maybe 20 minutes before service starts, and that really brought a sense of peace on me, and just kept getting increasing responsibilities until. Bishop called me in like September of 2017 and asked me to come on staff as an associate pastor in January 2018.
I like what you said, and I want to make sure our audience picks this up because you said something I thought was really profound. And you talked about you didn't just sit back. I mean, you sat back and you waited.
Mm-hmm.
But in your waiting, you just wasn't sitting with your hands
right
closed. It's like, hey, man.
Hands.
Like you was like, hey, man, I'm going to go find somewhere
mm-hmm.
to cultivate the gift. And so would you say that's kind of a good lesson? I even think about myself, right? Like that's a good lesson for me to remember. If God has called you into something, how are you creating or allowing him through you to create space and where to speak at? Because it might not be the house of the Lord in front of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Like it might be around the corner with 25.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep. When you get a call from God, I believe you see this in Scripture over and over again. The first act of accepting the call is preparation.
Mm-hmm.
It's not actually going and doing it. It's preparing. And one of the scriptures that God gave me early on was it's in one of the parables where the Jesus talks about the guy who gave out the talent said, "Occupy until I come." And that word "occupy" means do business. Don't have idle hands. Do business and prepare until I come get you.
Yeah.
So that was a philosophy in the theology and mindset that I had, was that I'm just going to do business, and my business at this season is to prepare until he comes for me.
That faithfulness. Yeah. Go and be faithful.
That's good. Also, if you for our viewers, Pastor Daren is also the board chair of Love Akron. I kind of felt like I didn't give you your full flowers on your intro.
Hey man, praise the Lord
Yeah,
for that. I'm glad he's he's trying to get out of it, but he ain't letting him go.
Don't let him go. Don't let him go. But how did you guys kind of come into friendship, and how did you end up being like board chair of Love Akron, and segue that right into One City? Like,
Well, me and Kemp, when Kemp became executive director of Love Akron, I believe I reached out to him and I told him that I wanted to do whatever I could to help him be successful.
yeah,
And I knew that he was going to have a set of challenges to face, like any new person coming into a role. Like he actually kind of did it before I did. We're in similar shoes in a lot of ways. And I knew there's going to be a certain set of challenges that he was going to have to deal with, and I wanted him to know he had my support. And it really started with us just meeting for lunch, like once a month. We had a standing once a month, and then that turned into.
where were y'all eating lunch at?
We went all over the place.
Yeah, a little bit everywhere, man.
Yeah.
Mustard seed.
Yep.
Okay, all the Akron staples.
Yeah.
Yeah. Eye opener.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
A little bit everywhere, man. We was eating though.
Yeah.
Wally Waffle. We was eating.
Eating good.
No doubt.
Still do Wally Waffle now.
Yeah, still do Wally Waffle. Still open.
You said no gout or no doubt?
No doubt.
Or gout.
Or gout.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Either one. We don't want either one.
Yeah.
All of them are gone.
So you guys are eating lunch, fellowshipping.
Yep. And then he asked me to come on to consider coming on the board, and for me it was a no-brainer. I really see a lot of parallels between my predecessor Bishop Johnson and his close relationship with Pastor Ford. When I joined the church, Pastor Bus Sr. was on the board of Love Akron. There's always been kind of a close relationship between Love Akron and the House of the Lord. And so really, out of our friendship, but also I saw it as a legacy piece of the House of the Lord for me and my role and where I was going, for me to be a part of this organization.
I think it's so interesting, and then I'm going to let you kind of tell your side of the story, Kemp. It's so interesting because previously we talked to Pastor Lav and Pastor Jason, and they were talking about the parallels of how they knew each other way before they actually started serving on One City or doing things with Love Akron. And now you're kind of telling me about the same parallels that you've seen even in your predecessor and the people who mentored you with Pastor Butts and Pastor Joey. They've already walked in these spaces, and it's almost organic to have you in those same spaces too. And I think about the Bible and how many stories and things are intentional. The things that happen in the New Testament or in the Old Testament that end up happening in the New Testament, or the things that they prophesied in the New Testament that had already happened that people would have never known without that. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And those parallels all have a purpose.
Yep.
And I think that's very powerful, because when you have connection and relationship, I think it really propels you to be able to do something special. Kind of what's your side of the story, Kemp?
Yeah, it's interesting because I would say way back when I knew Daren through another brother of mine, Jonathan Greer, and that's kind of how we met. And so it was just one of those things when I saw him, it was no harsh words, just like, oh man, that's cool, Daren. What's up, Daren? You kind of keep moving, but he was right there. He was, one of the first people that reached out to me and extended like, hey, help. So for me, Daren has kind of been like my Barnabas, if you will. Yeah. Because, Daren, and I said this to him last week, Daren carries himself in an incredibly humbling way. Like, you wouldn't know that Daren is the lead pastor from House of the Lord unless you asked him or if you knew him.
I agree. I agree with that. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Just by the way he carries himself. So I know I can always go to Darren for a good laugh, right? Anytime I call, Darren he has a great gifting of taking something serious and putting humor around it that kind of breaks a lot of the tension. But I think for me, asking Darren to come onto the board was, just an easy decision for me because I needed to find people. First of all, I knew that loved me and that I could trust. But I think the bigger thing that I'm really appreciative of that he was willing when I asked him to assume the role of chair, because that is a heavy role, and we were going through a lot of different in transition. Our board was shifting and changing in its makeup.
Right. On top of his normal
Yeah,
responsibility.
on top of what he's already doing, man, which I'm incredibly appreciative for. But I think, Darren and I has always had a good relationship, and Darren has been the one that I think has taught me really about the importance of rhythm in my life. I think as a leader, and the importance of just rhythm and making sure I'm taking these rhythms, right? Because, I can remember people say, oh, man, you need to take like 2 months off. And I'm like, well, how do you do that? And I come back with 2 months worth of work. He's like, no, what you need to do is, find you a rhythm. And I've learned a lot about my own scheduling from Darren and just his mentorship of me. And as you asked the question, this was funny, and this may be for another thing, but here's something I thought about, is when it comes to the fivefold, and John, you probably gonna get mad because you're like, oh man, you taking us to another spot.
No, go ahead.
But when we talk about the fivefold, why do we only recognize pastors?
Mm-hmm.
Because I wouldn't say that I'm not a pastor, but I feel more of an apostle anointing on my life.
Mm-hmm.
But like nobody comes up and says, oh man, I'm Apostle Kemp.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm just curious. Like, well, why do we just lean on it? And even when it comes to a teacher or a prophet, right? Like we don't really talk about the other things. We just really focus on pastors. Not that we got to get deep into that today, but that's just something that hit me when we do the introduction of people. But we only stay in those kind of things, like those are the things that only bring relevance. But I'm just bringing it up. Maybe you can bookmark that, John, for another topic of conversation.
Apostle Kemp, we can bookmark that.
but like I don't know, man. I just thought about it, and I'm not doing this to press upon titles, because I know in our society we can get really caught up in that, and that's not what I'm doing. It's more about not about positions, but about platforms that God has called us into.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about calling, so.
No, I think you bring up a good point, and we will and probably need to have an episode on that, because I don't think people really understand the full definition or the full scope of all of that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Fivefold ministry being the hand and all the different references that you can have. We can't get into the weeds right now, but I mean it's all.
I just like throwing those curveballs.
No,
it just hit me in the spirit. I'm like, why we? But go ahead.
Yeah.
I digress.
With the deep voice.
Yeah.
So, so recently, can you tell us, you just became the House of the Lord lead pastor? What was the time frame on that? Because the next question kind of leading into that, it'll make sense. So can you give us your timeline of when you became lead pastor?
Yeah. So me and Bishop Johnson, we wanted to have like a very slow and intentional transition, understanding that he's the founder of the church. Yeah. The official transition happened in year 50 of our history, so there's a lot there and needed to go about it slowly. So I would say it was I've probably been in the process of transitioning since I came on staff in 2018, really. You could even go back before that, because the church was getting to know me as I was filling in for him while he's on vacation more and more. And but one of the things I explained this to the church a couple of weeks ago is that the transition is not him and his wife, Pastor Kathy, transitioning out and me and my wife transitioning in. The church is a family. Yeah. So the transition really is Bishop Johnson and Pastor Kathy transitioning into becoming the grandparents. and me and my wife transitioning into becoming the parents.
Yeah.
And when you look at it from that way,
Grandparents have a fun job.
yes, and they have a critical role to play in healthy family dynamics in the raising of children, because they can see and say things that the parents can't see or can't say. So that's how we approach the transition. So I became a lead pastor in title in 2021. Bishop began going by founder and preaching pastor. And beginning in 2021, I did all of the leading behind the scenes. So I was doing the staff meetings, I was doing the elders meetings, I was doing the leaders meetings, I was doing all of the kind of the leading behind the scenes he gave me while he still was doing the majority of the preaching on Sunday morning. And from 2021 to 2025, we intentionally went through this shift of me doing more of the preaching in the front and him doing less of the preaching in the front.
Yeah.
So that by the time September came and me and my wife were installed, it was really more of an affirmation of what was than an introduction of what is happening.
Right. So what was new for everyone else, you had already been walking in it.
Yeah.
And I think it's smart kind of how you did it too, because how you guys did it, because you got to do the process behind closed doors.
Yep.
You got to run the day-to-day, the meetings, before you ever started preaching every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like, okay, hey, you're about to be preaching every Sunday, you're about to be running every meeting. You kind of got to eat it in pieces.
Yep.
I think that's super important. And then my next question is, since you've been pastor, how has technology or live streaming or the internet, how has that affected your ministry or the ministry positively or negatively, in your opinion?
I think it's impacted it positively. There was actually some research done by Black Millennial Cafe around live streaming and the impact on, particularly on Black churches. And in that context, it was the seniors that appreciated live streaming more than the younger generation, which speaks to some of the systemic issues that we have to deal with, because a lot of our seniors had the high blood pressure, had the diabetes, had those health issues that when COVID happened, and it allowed them to kind of be able to go in a hybrid space and still be able to worship. So on the same side, I think it was very beneficial technology in that space. Plus nowadays, that's your front door, right?
Yeah,
that's where people check you out. That's your curb appeal, if you will, is your online presence. On the other side of that is also somewhat negative, because it isolated some of our seniors too, because some of them, they weren't leaving the house for nothing.
Yeah.
Just because of how they were so much in fear of COVID or getting sick, and even as the numbers came down, it's just now they kind of got stuck in that rut. So that was some of the positive and the negative. I think now another thing I'm gonna go out here on the cutting edge that I see as become somewhat helpful in terms of technology is AI.
Yeah.
AI can help you.
They don't want to hear. They don't want to hear that.
So there are certain ways that now AI can't replace the sermon writing process.
Yeah.
But it can help speed up some research, especially if you require the tool that you're using to give you sources back with the information that it's pulling, so you can fact check it. But it can speed up some of the research and some of the things that, for example, if you want to turn your manuscript of your sermon into a devotional that your church can have with it for the week ahead during seasons like Christmas and Lent, it's a very efficient way of taking your sermon and turning it into a week-long devotional that can help the church walk together in community.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I feel like a very powerful tool with AI is taking that 45-minute long sermon, and it can break it down into the notes that people can use to reference for the rest of the week, or that you can touch in on a midweek service that people can really dive into the more specific topics that you only were able to touch on a Sunday. And AI can break that schedule down completely for you without you having to put 4 hours into doing that.
Absolutely.
So,
Most pastors work 70 hours a week.
Yeah.
So it's imperative that
You mean you just don't preach on Sunday?
right. That's what most
You
people
don't,
think.
you don't just get up there and that's it, and then you get to go home and twiddle your
Absolutely.
thumbs all week?
Right. I wish I just get up there and just kind of what's on my mind, what's on my heart this morning.
You know
No.
My macaroni was cold last night. I'm going to tell you.
Right. I went to the restaurant.
Yeah.
The menu said no substitutes.
And that made me think about.
There's no substitute for Christ.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but yeah, that's the AI is it's a hard topic.
It
but
is.
I think if used correctly
Mhm.
is very powerful. And Kemp, I'm about to give you some room here. What we know, one city is the goal of one city is to take all of the churches and kind of come together as the Big C Church to be more effective in our community. Did you just organically come onto one city because you were already the board chair? Like, how did that transition happen just from one city? I know how you got, with Love Akron,
Mhm.
but adding something else to your plate, not always a physical thing you have to do, but even mental capacity is something that's tough for senior pastors to do because you already have so much to worry about. What made you want to be part of one city?
One, it was it was a natural organic progression from my role on the board and from relationship with Kemp. But even a little deeper than that, it actually fit who we are as a church. So I like to say the House of the Lord is a church that is loving, inspiring, and hospitable, and we live that out in three ways that we're uniquely anointed to do. And I believe that we are a teaching church. We are a partnering church, and we are a church that believes in holistic ministry. And a lot of that comes out of Acts 2 and 42, and it talks about the things that the church did, the practices that the church had that it was founded upon. And one of those is fellowship. But one of the meanings of fellowship is partnership.
Yeah.
And I believe that partnerships are what activate the church. It is the coming together of two people, two ministries, two organizations that creates this this multiplication of impact. So just from with who we are as a church and how we are trying to live it out in our unique way that we believe God has gifted us to do, partnering, which one city is just a natural extension of who we are as a church.
Oh yeah. Kim, do you want to expound on that at all, or talk about like your vision for one city moving forward in these different spaces?
Yeah, I think that what Pastor Daren said was pretty accurate, and I think that as we move forward, it is a continuous of discovering what can it look like. We have the tagline "Better Together," and what does that really look like? There's a lot that's going on, I think, throughout Greater Akron that the church needs to be at those tables, but two, they have to be invited to those tables. But once we're invited to those tables, we have to find a way to stay at those tables and continue to show up at those tables. And so I believe one of our responsibilities as Love Akron, being a really great connector and convener and collaborator with change makers, we often get that call first. And so we feel an obligation to call out to the pastors and churches and other ministries to say, hey, here's what's happening and going on. And so our vision is how do we look at it from a broad scale, but also, John, how do we begin to, if you will, there's always got to be a macro and a micro, right? And I think from a micro perspective, it's like, how do we create some of these encounter groups, right? With different pastors that we've done with Daren and some of our, if you were one city ambassadors that's been with us now over the past 4 years. How do we recreate that with different pastors across Greater Akron? Because the one thing that I've learned from Pastor Daren and from others is that pastors are looking for a place to have fellowship and to have relationship and really communion with each other. Because for pastors, you have to create a space of safety for them so that they can, not that I have this issue, but they can let their hair down, so to speak, right? Without feeling the obligation of having to be on, but it's almost being able to be off amongst other colleagues and not be in this realm of competitiveness of competition, because whether we realize it or not, man, that exists in the church. And I mean, We were at Pastor Daren and I was at an event, man, where Bishop Johnson spoke about like how there are pastors that feel shame because maybe my church ain't as big as yours based on numbers. And so we quantify our worth or our value by the size of our church, right? When I just don't think that's God. I don't think that's how God sees us or looks at us. But also, too, being able to create some of these, if you will, micro spaces to have those real conversations. Because you're not going to have that conversation in a group.
Right.
Because most of us are trying to figure out how to grow, right? Because that's Western Christianity. How do we grow? How do we build? How do we get bigger? How do we have more? When really, as it does say in Acts as well, it says, man, God added to the church. So God adds on to us. So in that, we're trying to create spaces, not just for pastors, but also other parachurch leaders as well, right? There are other, if you will, Kemp Boyds out there who are leading Christian-based nonprofits who need a space to sit in together and to build community together with as well. But then there's also other ministers within churches who may not be a lead pastor, but they're serving their church well and they feel the effects of ministry. So our vision is how to create some of these encounter groups to really bring people in together on a more intimate level to have some of these talks and really build in relationship with one another.
Yeah, I think that's very important too, because all of the disciples were different, right?
Mm-hmm.
They all came from different walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
They all had different jobs, like you mentioned earlier. Some were married, some were not. And I think it's important as one city, everyone can reach someone different.
Yes.
Yep.
My reach is different from your reach, is different from your reach.
Absolutely.
You may be able to reach a different age group. I may be able to reach a different style group. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? I think everyone has a purpose, and I think being one city, the importance of that is if we come together as one voice, we can reach more people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they can hear about the goodness of Jesus Christ. As you were talking, I was thinking about, and this may be something in the future, maybe I'm being a prophet right now and operating in one of the five.
Come on now. See, it keeps coming up.
But I'm thinking about the one city conference where you have all of the churches come together, but it's a combined resource.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it won't be a work thing for the senior pastors. It'll be an opportunity for them to get poured into.
Absolutely.
Instead of them having to always pour out.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And then you have like this combined effort, maybe with all of different singers and different like people who serve in different capacities. They can be the ones who, like, you mix all these teams together.
Absolutely.
But then you bring in different people to encourage the senior leadership.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah. Make sure that you document that.
Yeah, man.
It's documented, and make sure I get that bottom line. Like, yeah, that was John Mathis. That
Absolutely.
prophesied that back in 2025. Man, listen, I want to thank y'all for being on here today. We're coming to the end of our time. Kemp, always thank you for letting us facilitate this. Pastor Daren, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to come visit us and share the words of wisdom. I feel honored to be in the room with all of these great pastors, all these great speakers, and I'm just soaking up the wisdom, man, and appreciate you guys, love you guys. Make sure you viewers, we thank you as always, make sure you're liking, sharing, subscribing to stay up to date with all of the new drops that we're going to be having coming up. We have a lot of things happening, so make sure that you're hitting the little notification bell, and as always, one city, we are better together.